Hey guys, it's Tyken here. I'm back with another video for you, so let's dive right in. Oh, and don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment. Let me know which manhwa you want to see next. Let's go!
Our story begins in the coastal city of Meiju. At first glance, a place like any other, with its buildings, mountains, and the sea right next door. But appearances can be deceiving. And here, in an ordinary apartment, a mother cared for her newborn son. A moment of pure tranquility and love, like so many others around the world. For her, that little being was her whole world. Little did she know that her son was much more than he appeared to be. But for the baby, this wasn't just food, it was a source of power, and with each moment he felt his energy increasing. The truth is, he wasn't an ordinary baby. He was Lin Chengen, 33 days old, and he had a status screen that only he could see. Currently, his level was as basic as it could be. Despite his fragile body, his mind was that of an adult. He had been reincarnated into this world and knew he needed to adapt as quickly as possible. His parents watched him, full of pride. The father commented on how special his son seemed to be, without realizing how right his intuition was. Meanwhile, Lin Chengen's system notified him. After accumulating energy 10,000 times, he finally unlocked his first life attribute. The game had begun. With a new power in hand, he began to imagine the possibilities. Would it be something like a superpowered cyborg? Or maybe a hero with spider abilities? Or, who knows, a genius with iron armor? The options were endless. But for now, he was still just a baby. Time passed. At 4 months old, while the house slept, Lin Chengen decided it was time to start his training. His first challenge, crawling. And to his surprise, even the simplest task for a baby earned him experience points, increasing his life force and coordination. And soon, crawling became walking. Each small step was a great victory, strengthening his fragile body and preparing him for whatever the future held. At 6 months, he was already part of the family routine. To his parents, he was just a baby growing fast. For him, it was a perfect disguise. But the world outside wasn't so peaceful. The news on TV showed the harsh reality, an era of genetic fusion, cyborgs, and terrifying creatures. It was for this world that he needed to prepare. The TV screen showed horror in its purest form, an apocalyptic beast, a harbinger of the dark future that awaited humanity. This was the enemy. But where there were monsters, there were also heroes. Cyborgs and superhumans waged an endless war to protect what remained of the world. Warriors of all kinds with genetic powers or advanced technology fought in a constant battle for survival. It was a world of extremes with no room for the weak. Watching all of this, Lin Chengen, at only 6 months old, felt the weight of responsibility. He couldn't just be an ordinary baby. An unwavering determination arose in his gaze. He would use every second of his childhood to prepare for the war that would inevitably come. The house's routine was interrupted by the arrival of a visitor. A family friend came to meet the new member, and they didn't come alone. The couple brought their little daughter to the meeting. It was the first contact between the two babies, a moment of pure childish curiosity, completely oblivious to the dangers that surrounded them. As soon as he had the chance, Lin Chengen returned to his secret training. Each movement was calculated to increase his abilities, and the system responded, improving his coordination and speed. He didn't stop there. The next step was to test his jumping strength. With each attempt, his muscles strengthened and more skill points were acquired. Even the simplest games served as training. By babbling and interacting with toys, he improved his ability to express himself. It was the perfect way to maintain his disguise as a normal baby, while his mind and body evolved in secret. Time flew by. At 8 months, Lin Chengen's training was already much more intense. Crunches in the crib were just the warm-up, strengthening his body every day. But this routine was almost discovered. His mother entered the room and, by a hair, didn't catch him red-handed. He had to think fast and act like a normal baby. The acting was perfect. Seeing her son whine, she was filled with tenderness, suspecting nothing. Lin Chenggen's secret was safe for now. After the scare of almost being discovered, Lin Chenggen's mother watched him sleep. To her, he was just her innocent baby, and little did she know of the secret routine he hid. But during bath time, the facade almost fell again. The father panicked when he saw his son's physique, questioning his wife about how an 8-month-old baby could have abs. The man tried to process the information. He only saw his son eat and sleep all day. The math simply didn't add up in his head. Until suddenly, he had an epiphany. An absurd idea, but one that made perfect sense to him, popped into his mind. With all conviction, he announced his grand theory. Their son could only be a cyborg. The mother, however, didn't seem even slightly impressed with the conclusion. Later, while watching TV, a news story caught Lin Chenggen's attention. An athlete lifted a weight of 20 kilos with one hand, and that sparked something in his mind. While receiving affection from his mother, the little warrior was already plotting a new plan. He needed to test his own limits and see if he could replicate that feat. The image of that strength training was etched in his mind. It was exactly that kind of power he sought, the level of strength he needed to reach to prove his worth. And it wasn't long before he acted. Alone in the storage room, Lin Chenggen found a 20-kilo box and lifted it without the slightest difficulty. However, the sudden efforts overloaded his small body. A sharp pain hit him, showing that brute strength was not enough. He was still a child. Frustrated by the failure, he realized he needed a smarter training method. His body was still too fragile for such abrupt movements, but giving up wasn't an option. The young man went to another room, determined to find a new way to get stronger. Upon opening the door, he came across something totally unexpected. His eyes sparkled with new hope. There was a little girl with purple hair. She seemed to be the same age as him, but her presence was mysterious and unlike anything he had ever seen. At that moment, Lin Chenggen found the perfect solution to his problem. He would use the girl as a living weight, turning a simple push-up into a high-intensity exercise. In that instant, Lin Chenggen had an epiphany. He found the perfect solution for his training, and she was right in front of him. And so, the plan was put into practice. Using the little girl as a living weight, the young man turned a simple push-up into a high-intensity exercise. The training didn't stop there. Day after day, Lin Chenggen pushed himself to the limit, surpassing his physical boundaries with unwavering determination. Despite all the effort, he felt that something was still missing. His progress seemed too slow, and frustration began to weigh on his mind. Analyzing his attributes, the truth was clear. His power level was still stuck at the most basic rank. All that training didn't seem to have the desired effect. Realizing that physical training alone was not enough, Lin Chenggen decided to leave the house for the first time in a long time. He needed knowledge, a new approach. The little girl accompanied him, and together they walked through the busy streets of the city in search of answers to his dilemma. Their destination was an unexpected place for two children, the library. The women who saw them on the street were confused, not understanding what they were doing there. But Lin Chenggen wasted no time. He went straight to the section he wanted and began to read. The speed and concentration with which the boy absorbed the content left the two women completely shocked. The book was an encyclopedia about beasts and magical creatures. Each page turned was a new universe of knowledge opening up to him. He wasn't just reading words. He was visualizing the overwhelming power of each creature described, from the darkest demons to the celestial gods. The book detailed the hierarchies of power, showing beings of divine level, demon lords, and legendary beasts that shaped the world. And upon understanding the scale of power in the universe, Lin Chengen finally understood how small he was and how far he needed to go. And then something unbelievable happened. A system notification popped up informing him that just by reading and acquiring knowledge, his attributes had increased drastically. The revelation that knowledge was a form of power changed everything. Lin Chengen dove into the books, and the system continued to reward him, increasing his attributes with each page turned. Time passed, and training gave way to a new phase: school life. Accompanied by the teacher and the little girl, Lin Chengen began his journey in kindergarten. Despite his appearance, he was no ordinary child. At 4 years old, his biological level was already Tier 20, an absurd strength for his age. The heavy training never stopped, but school life came with its own challenges. Lin Chengen found the little girl being bullied by a group of bullies, and that he could not allow. The reaction was immediate. With a speed that no one there could follow, Lin Chengen solved the problem his way. It was a blink of an eye. And the result was educational, a lesson they wouldn't forget anytime soon. The bullies, now in tears, called for their parents. In the midst of it all, the little girl watched, finally at peace, with her eyes shining with admiration for her protector. His display of power did not go unnoticed by the system. A new mission was completed simply by scaring the other children and establishing his dominance in kindergarten. And with that, he unlocked a new title, one that perfectly defined his new position in the school hierarchy, the Kindergarten King. But his evolution wasn't just physical. By reading 100 billion characters, he completed another mission, receiving a treasure that would change his potential forever. He acquired the Foundation of Celestial Wisdom, an ability that elevated his learning and comprehension ability to a superhuman level. Now, nothing was beyond his reach. The years in kindergarten flew by. Graduation day arrived, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new challenge for them all. But for Lin Chengen, graduation was just another training day. He continued to push himself, and the weight he could lift was now more than double what it was before. His body, enhanced by knowledge and tireless training, now defied gravity. He was stronger, faster, and smarter than ever, ready for what came next. The tireless training paid off. Lin Chengen now broke speed records with ease, surpassing the 8-second mark in the 100-meter dash, and his mind was not far behind. With celestial wisdom, he absorbed knowledge day and night, mastering any subject he set out to study. Time passed, and soon it was time to enter elementary school. A new school, new challenges, and a new routine for the young man. And, as expected, Lin Chengen excelled at everything. He dominated academic competitions, filling his mother with a pride that brought her to tears. His intelligence wasn't just for himself. He patiently helped his classmates who were struggling, explaining the most complex subjects, and with his help, success was guaranteed. The friendship between the two blossomed, based on mutual support and small daily victories. In sports, he was simply on another level. His reflexes and strength were unmatched, making any physical activity a spectacle. School life continued peacefully and predictably, until one day, a new transfer student appeared at the classroom door. Her presence was different. There was an aura of mystery and a cold beauty around her that immediately caught everyone's attention. She seemed to carry a weight, a loneliness that even the sunny day couldn't dispel. The teacher instructed her to find a seat, and the girl walked through the aisle, indifferent to the curious glances that followed her. Her friend couldn't contain herself and commented on the newcomer's beauty, but Lin Chengen remained silent, just watching. She chose the empty desk right next to Lin Chengen. He felt there was something unusual about her. While the others saw only a new student, he perceived a calmness and control that weren't normal for someone that age. But integration wasn't easy. While the rest of the class was having fun, the new girl remained isolated, falling asleep on herself. The new girl was sleeping soundly at her desk, completely oblivious to what was happening around her. But it wasn't a peaceful sleep. Suddenly, a cold sweat began to run down her body. It was a clear sign that something was terribly wrong, as if she were trapped in a nightmare. She woke up with a start, raising her arm and shouting something no one understood. Her classmates reacted with disgust and confusion. Taking advantage of the situation, one of the boys approached from behind and, with a cruel smile, poured all the water from his bottle over her head. The humiliation was instant. She clenched her fist with all her strength, trying to contain the rage that was boiling inside. Biting her lips, the girl endured the attack in silence, while tears mixed with the cold water that ran down her face. The cruelty of the act broke her for a moment. The new student, who seemed so controlled before, was now crying helplessly in front of everyone. The scene turned into a spectacle for the aggressors, who laughed non-stop at her humiliation. Meanwhile, Lin Chengen watched everything from afar, but his silence had a limit. Lin Chengen stood up, determined to put an end to that cowardice. Without saying a word, he grabbed the aggressor by the collar of his shirt. The bully's smile disappeared instantly, replaced by pure panic. And then, Lin Chengen revealed a side that no one in the room knew. A dark and frightening smile showed that the bully had messed with the wrong person. Fear paralyzed the boy, who could barely breathe. The bottle he used to humiliate his classmate now fell from his trembling hands. Lin Chengen forced him to clean up the mess he had created himself. Kneeling, the bully desperately tried to dry the water from the desk. With a final warning, Lin Chengen made it clear to him and the whole class that this type of behavior would no longer be tolerated. Lin Chengen's warning echoed through the room. Fear and shock took over the other students, who now saw their classmate with different eyes. Realizing that he wasn't as quiet and harmless as he seemed, the humiliation turned into a forced apology. The bullies, now cornered, lowered their heads before the new student under the watchful eye of Lin Chengen and the other classmate. Despite the apology, the girl couldn't stop trembling. The tears were a mixture of relief, fear, and the pain of the humiliation she had just suffered. Seeing her state, the purple-haired classmate approached to offer comfort. She tried to calm her down, showing that she was no longer alone in that situation. And at that moment, the girl remembered how that unlikely friendship had begun. How, even amidst the confusion of school, she had found two people she could count on. She recalled the conversation in which she finally opened her heart, explaining why she was so withdrawn and scared all the time. The young woman confessed that she always felt like a burden to others and asked if they didn't hate her for being who she was. Since she was little, she has been the target of exclusion and evil. The shadows of the past haunted her, making her believe that she would never be accepted by anyone. But the answer she received wasn't one of pity or contempt. It was something that caught her completely by surprise, breaking her expectations. The purple-haired friend smiled and said something that would change everything for the girl. They promised that they would be friends forever, no matter what happened. A sincere promise that she had never heard before. The words became a hug. For the first time, she felt the warmth of a true friendship, a safe haven in the midst of the storm. That gesture broke all the barriers she had built. The tears were now of gratitude and relief, washing away all the pain she held inside. It was the first time someone defended her, the first time someone truly welcomed her, and that emotion was too strong to contain. Little by little, the crying ceased. She had finally found a place to belong, and that certainty changed absolutely everything for her future. As a symbol of their newfound friendship, the girl offered Lin Chengen a small gift. It was a gesture of pure gratitude for him defending her when no one else would. The object was a necklace with 2 fangs, an amulet that represented the promise they had made to each other, a pact of friendship that had just been sealed. And so, under the afternoon sun, the new trio celebrated. One of the girls declared with all her energy that they would be friends forever, and at that moment, it seemed like nothing could shake that promise. But the joy of that moment was interrupted. Lin Chenggen's friend's expression changed completely, overtaken by a sudden worry upon seeing something in the distance. Lin Chenggen also realized that something was wrong. The light atmosphere from before disappeared, giving way to an unexpected tension that hung in the air. Hidden, the young man watched the scene. The white-haired girl was in the principal's office, accompanied by a man with cybernetic arms. The conversation seemed serious and extremely formal. That scene made him thoughtful. He began to realize that his new friend's life was much more complicated than he imagined. There was a mystery surrounding her that he couldn't decipher. The image of her walking away stuck in his mind. The girl he had just promised to protect seemed to be being taken to a world he wasn't a part of. Back at home, the night brought an apparent calm. His mother stretched out on the sofa, completely oblivious to the worries that now occupied her son's mind. On television, there was an image of a hero with superhuman strength, an ideal of power and protection that seemed very distant from his reality at that moment. Suddenly, their attention was drawn to the door. Someone had arrived, and their expression showed that it wasn't an expected visit at that hour. It was Lin Chenggen's father, who had just arrived home. He looked tired, as if he came. The father's arrival did not go unnoticed. Lin Chenggen turned around right away, catching the sound of the conversation that was beginning to unfold in the hallway of the house. While his father was showering him with insults, Lin Chenggen was in another universe. He could only think that he was now able to lift 600 pounds with one hand without needing any enhancement. The argument was the least of his problems. As the insults continued, Lin Chenggen could only think of one thing. That new strength was just the beginning. He realized that his true potential was, in fact, much greater than he imagined. Suddenly, Lin Chenggen's mind was invaded by a vision, or perhaps a nightmare. Cities in ruins, explosions everywhere, a scenario of total destruction that marked the past. In that devastated world, terrifying creatures hunted mercilessly, and in the midst of the chaos, a woman fought desperately for her life against the horde of monsters. But the fight was in vain. In an instant of pure terror, she was captured, with no chance of escaping the creature's clutches. The sound of the jaw closing was the last thing that was heard, a quick and brutal end. And behind all this tragedy, there were figures who seemed to control the chaos. Leaders who, in public, spoke of hope, but in the shadows, seemed to be linked to the monsters themselves. And then, Lin Chenggen awoke. The nightmare was over, but the reality wasn't much better. His parents' argument echoed through the house, a sound he was already used to. It was at that moment that he realized that hadn't just been a dream. It was a memory, a vivid and terrifying memory of his past. Panic took over him. The images of destruction returned with full force, but his parents, immersed in their own fight, didn't even notice his despair. He needed to get out of there. He needed air. Running to the window, he opened the curtain, looking for something in the night sky. And there they were, squadrons of mechs patrolling the city. Proof that the world he lived in was much more dangerous than his parents' fight suggested. The next day, at school, life seemed to go on as normal, at least on the surface. That's when he found the girl he had defended. She called him, seeming to apologize for making him wait. Lin Chenggen stared at her, a little surprised. After everything that happened, he didn't expect her to look for him. But the conversation took an unexpected turn. He held her hand, and suddenly, a fragment of bright energy appeared between them. Something that connected his past to her present. That fragment of energy pulsed in Lin Chenggen's hand, an inexplicable connection with the girl beside him, an old and powerful memory that he couldn't understand. Meanwhile, life in the city continued at its normal pace, a place where humans, cyborgs, and even beings with animal traits lived together on the streets, each immersed in their own routine. That's when a mysterious woman standing on the street corner fixed her gaze on the two young people passing by. Her presence was impossible to ignore. Lin Chenggen felt the weight of that gaze and turned instinctively. Something wasn't right, and out of nowhere she was right in front of them, blocking their path. The approach was so quick that it caught them completely by surprise. The new student, with her innocence, tried to be friendly with the stranger, but Lin Chenggen remained on alert, suspicious of that sudden approach. The woman responded with a smile that didn't convey any confidence. She seemed to be enjoying the situation, like a predator playing with its prey. With a falsely sweet tone, she began to ask personal questions, wanting to know where they were going and if their parents knew they were alone. Realizing the danger, Lin Chenggen didn't hesitate. He grabbed the girl's wrist, ready to get her out of there as quickly as possible. Without saying a word, he pulled her with him, completely ignoring the woman. For him, that conversation was over. They kept walking until they finally reached the school gates, a place that was supposed to be safe. But instead of following the main path, Lin Chenggen guided her through a deserted alley. He needed a moment to understand what had just happened. The girl seemed shaken by the encounter, and the tension between them was palpable. That incident on the street was more than just a coincidence, except they weren't alone. The sound of heels on concrete broke the silence of the alley. The mysterious woman had followed them. Standing at the entrance, she stared at them with the same smug smile, making it clear that escape wouldn't be so easy. Lin Chenggen realized his mistake too late. The alley that was supposed to be a safe shortcut had become a trap. Beside him, the girl trembled, sensing the approaching danger. The mysterious woman wasn't alone. With a scornful smile, she presented her henchmen, making it clear that the friendly chat was over. Without warning, the brute lunged forward, ready to incapacitate them. Lin Chenggen's first reaction was to push the girl to safety, placing himself in front of her. The attack was quick and direct. The man was huge, and there was nowhere to run. The only option was to fight. But Lin Chenggen wasn't easy prey. He braced for the impact, ready to strike back with full force. And the first hit was his. A clean, brutal punch straight to the jaw. The impact was so strong that it made the giant spit blood, paralyzed by the pain. The henchman was thrown back like he was nothing. The woman, who had been smiling arrogantly, now stared in disbelief. That boy was definitely not normal. In seconds, the brute was on the ground, completely defeated. The woman finally understood that she had seriously underestimated that student. Without giving her time to think, Lin Chenggen turned to the main target. He wasn't going to wait for her next move. Another devastating blow caught her by surprise. The woman was launched into the air, a victim of the same force that took down her bodyguard. In the middle of the confusion, he grabbed the package the girl was carrying. He held the object firmly. His expression changed, becoming darker. He knew he couldn't let that fall into the wrong hands. But the fight wasn't over yet. A chill ran through the alley, and a feeling of dread took over the place. They felt like they were no longer dealing with simple thugs. Out of nowhere, a monstrous claw tore through the wall next to them. The real threat had finally revealed itself, and the threat was much bigger than he imagined. A colossal monster emerged from the rubble, leaving a trail of destruction. Alone, Lin Chenggen was the only one still standing. The creature ignored the young man and advanced towards one of the fallen victims on the ground. For the woman, there was no escape. it was the end. But before the monster could deliver the final blow, Lin Chengen shot towards it. The girl he was protecting was shocked, not understanding why he was running to certain death. In one swift motion, he scooped her up in his arms. There was no time for explanations, just to run. The escape began. Lin Chengen ran as fast as he could, trying to put some distance between them and the beast that was chasing them. But they weren't alone. From the sky, a mysterious figure appeared at high speed, diving straight towards the alley. She landed with precision, positioning herself as a shield between the young people and the monster. The creature, furious, prepared to attack the new intruder. The newcomer didn't show an ounce of fear. She faced the beast head-on, ready for the combat that was to come. An intense light began to form in her gauntlet. She was preparing a powerful attack to finally stop the threat, and then she fired. It wasn't a single shot, but a barrage of energy projectiles that flew straight into the creature's open mouth. The impact was immediate and devastating. A series of explosions engulfed the monster, illuminating the dark alley with the force of the attack. The cyborg warrior hovered in the air, watching her missile salvo hit the target with surgical precision. For the first time, the creature recoiled, roaring in pain as the explosions hit it mercilessly. The attack was working. The smoke dissipated, revealing the monster stunned and injured. For a moment, it seemed like the fight was over, but the look in its eyes said otherwise. The battle against the colossal creature continued relentlessly. The cyborg warrior didn't back down, diving straight into danger to end the fight once and for all. But Lin Chengen watched all of this from afar, on television. He analyzed the fight, calculating the time and strategy needed to defeat a monster of that level. The image on the screen showed how dangerous the creature really was, an enemy that he, in his current state, wouldn't stand a chance against. And it was there, in front of that scene, that a decision was made. He needed to get stronger, and he needed to be quick. Without wasting time, Lin Chengen began a rigorous training. Each exercise was taken to the limit, and the system responded, increasing his attributes with each repetition. And he wasn't alone on this journey. A friend accompanied him, offering support and motivation so that he wouldn't give up on his goals. The routine was twofold, balancing student life with grueling training. Every free moment was an opportunity to overcome his limits. Common training wasn't enough. He went to the extreme, using nature's own weight to force his body to evolve. And the results appeared. His strength and speed increased dramatically. Movements that were once impossible now became part of his arsenal, fast and precise. Time passed. Back on the couch, Lin Chengen watched the news, but now with a completely different posture. He was no longer the same young man as before. On the screen, a report showed a warrior displaying his strength by lifting a 2-ton block, a feat considered impressive by most. But for Lin Chengen, that was nothing special. A confident smile revealed how much he had progressed. 2 tons no longer seemed like a challenge. With his new strength and confidence, life at school also changed. He and his friend walked through the halls, no longer as ordinary students. In front of the principal's office, the teachers congratulated him. He had exceeded all expectations, achieving a feat that made everyone proud. The mission was accomplished. For a brief moment, everything seemed to be in its place. A small pause of peace before the next challenge inevitably appeared. Taking advantage of the calm moment at school, Lin Chengen and his friend decided to relax with a game of badminton. The young man's confidence was visible, but he didn't expect what was coming. His friend, however, seemed to take the game a little more seriously. With an excited smile, she prepared for the first serve, ready to show off her skills. And with an explosive movement, she launched the shuttlecock. It became clear that this would not be a common match, as the force of the blow was completely inhuman. But before she could score the point, the shuttlecock was intercepted in the air. A bully appeared, interrupting the game. The force of the serve was so great that it destroyed his racket on impact, and the guy didn't seem happy about the damage. Soon, the bully's friends surrounded the girl, blaming her for the broken racket. The situation became tense, with the two demanding that she pay for the damage. Seeing his friend being intimidated, Lin Chengen didn't stand still. That brief moment of peace at school had officially ended. The leader of the group stared at him with a mocking smile, as if challenging the young man to do something about the situation. Lin Chengen accepted the challenge in silence. He prepared to serve. Concentrating all his newly acquired strength, he jumped for the hit. The young man delivered a blow that turned the shuttlecock into a real projectile. It was his definitive response to the bully's provocation. The shuttlecock cut through the air with absurd speed, going straight to the target. The impact not only disintegrated the bully's new racket, but also hit him squarely, knocking off his cap and leaving him in complete shock. The look of terror on his face said it all. He had messed with the wrong person, and the humiliation was total. The bully's friend was paralyzed with fear. He shouted that by a hair, his colleague's head had not been torn off with that absurd force. With nothing to do, the bully and his friends bowed in a forced apology. Lin Chengen's display of power was enough to scare everyone around. The confusion made him remember how it was all actually about her. A talented player he simply wanted to defend. While everyone saw only brute strength, Lin Chengen sharpened his mind. For him, each page read was another blow in his arsenal, a new strategy for the next battle that was approaching. Whether in his studies or in front of a computer, his mind worked on another level, processing information and solving complex problems with impressive ease. The result of so much effort was visible, a mountain of trophies and awards. Lin Chengen was a prodigy in practically everything he set out to do. And of course, so much talent and popularity came with a side effect, the attention of all the girls in the school, a situation that still caught him by surprise. However, amidst all this admiration, his attention seemed to be focused on just one person, helping her whenever he could. His superhuman strength was not limited to badminton. In the shot put, he broke any record imaginable, throwing the object an impossible distance of 201 meters. In the high jump, his agility defied the laws of physics, showing that his body was as extraordinary as his mind. And on the racetrack, no one could keep up with him. Lin Chengen was simply unbeatable in all sports. Each victory was celebrated alongside her. The medal was just a symbol. The real reward was sharing that moment. But suddenly, something changed. A realization struck Lin Chengen like lightning. The metal in his hand began to shine, and a system screen appeared before him. The perfect school life was just the surface of something much bigger. As he walked beside her, a question arose in his mind. With so much power in his hands, what was the true purpose of his life now? Lin Chengen froze, still processing the system screen that appeared out of nowhere. The question about his purpose echoed in his mind, leaving him completely disoriented in the middle of the road. His friend called out to him, trying to bring him back to reality. She noticed that he was completely spaced out, lost in his own thoughts about what had just happened. She insisted, pointing directly at him and wanting to know the reason for his sudden distraction. Clearly, something was very wrong with the young man, and then a memory surfaced, an old promise, symbolized by that claw-shaped pendant, a moment that defined everything. The memory hit him with full force. In that instant, confusion gave way to a frightening clarity. He finally understood the nature of his power, a dark entity that dwelled within him, a force that he was only beginning to comprehend. Later, already in his room, Lin Chengen tried to find answers. He needed to know more about that entity, about whatever was happening to him. He searched for any clue about the dark butterfly he saw in his mind. but the internet returned no results. That force was unknown to the world. If the digital world didn't have the answers, maybe the real world did. He grabbed his backpack, looking for something specific that had come to mind. And there it was, the claw pendant that appeared in his vision, the only physical clue he had about the origin of it all. As he held the object, a powerful energy coursed through his body. A new system window appeared, confirming that this item was the key to understanding his power. The energy dissipated as quickly as it appeared, leaving Lin Chengen stunned. He now had confirmation, but also many more questions. The next day, routine returned to normal. He took her to school on his bike, as he always did. On the outside, everything seemed perfect, but inside, Lin Chengen's head was spinning. He now knew that his peaceful life was a facade and that an immense and dangerous power was awakening. And proof that his peace was numbered soon appeared. A school bully blocked their path, looking for a fight. The bully seemed to be waiting for this moment. He was more than ready to cause trouble, and he made no secret of his excitement. The guy stood in front of them, blocking the way completely. Surprise and fear took over Lin Chengen and his companion, who were not expecting that. But the fight didn't happen. The bully spoke so quickly and insistently that before they could react, he had already said goodbye, satisfied with the intimidation. Time passed, and the city's routine continued its course, indifferent to the small dramas of its inhabitants. Back in his room, Lin Chengen was trying to understand the nature of his power. He concentrated, trying to access that dark force that had awakened within him, and the power responded, but not in the way he expected. A strange, dark mark appeared on the palm of his hand, a physical sign of the entity that now accompanied him. Elsewhere, a call was abruptly ended. The news seemed to have deeply shaken the man in the wheelchair. To prove a theory, Lin Chengen decided to go to a specific supermarket. He needed to confirm something about the world and his new powers. Their destination was a large shopping center. The answer Lin Chengen was looking for was inside. Inside the market, he analyzed the options. His search wasn't for ordinary food. He was after something much more specific, something normal people wouldn't buy. And that's when he saw it, something that confirmed his suspicions and changed his perception of that place. In a corner of the market, there was a butcher shop selling beast meat, a product that shouldn't exist in a normal world, proving that reality was much stranger than it seemed. His companion called him, not understanding what he had found. But Lin Chengen already had the confirmation he needed. It was time to act. Only the tranquility of the market was broken in an instant. Before he could do anything, a sudden danger arose, coming directly towards him. The danger that arose was neutralized as quickly as it appeared. A blur passed, and the problem was solved before anyone could even understand what happened. On the ground, only the pieces of the creature remained. The threat was completely disintegrated, leaving behind only the proof that something dangerous had been there. A hand approached the remains, feeling the residual energy that still emanated from them. Clearly, it wasn't an ordinary fight. A mysterious young man had interfered. With overwhelming power, he eliminated the threat effortlessly and, just as he appeared, disappeared, leaving everyone behind. Lin Chengen, however, saw an opportunity. With the high-quality beast meat there, he didn't think twice before taking a piece for himself. His companion, however, was completely shocked. The idea of picking up monster remains from the market floor seemed disgusting and dangerous to her. He tried to explain that it was more than enough for now, but the girl remained horrified, unable to process Lin Chengen's calm in the face of the situation. Ignoring her protests, the young man decided he needed more. He turned and walked to another section, leaving her behind, completely confused. His eyes soon found what he was looking for, even more exotic and powerful ingredients with prices that reflected their rarity. Without hesitation, Lin Chengen grabbed one of the most expensive items on the shelf. The smile on his face showed that he knew exactly the value of that for his future. The girl, seeing what he picked up and its price, panicked again. She couldn't understand why he was spending so much money on strange food. Seeing her despair, Lin Chengen simply patted her head, trying to calm her down. He reassured her, guaranteeing that everything would be all right. His confidence was unwavering, and he knew that this investment would be rewarded very soon. Upon arriving home, he showed the ingredient to his mother. Surprised, she commented that with an item like that, she could prepare a banquet to strengthen the whole family. At the register, Lin Chengen finalized the purchase. This was the first step of his new plan to get stronger, and he wouldn't spare any expense to reach his goal. After finalizing the purchase, Lin Chengen and the girl left the store. The first part of the plan to get stronger was complete. It was already night when they started the journey back home. The city streets were completely deserted. While pedaling, Lin Chengen's mind was completely focused on the rare ingredient he was carrying in the bicycle basket. In his imagination, he could already feel the energy contained in that piece of beast, analyzing its potential. An immense force pulsed there, just waiting to be absorbed and released. The compatibility with his system was undeniable. That item belonged to an abyssal creature, a sea monster that was a true nightmare in life. But, for now, the reality was much simpler. Just a young man returning home by bike with his companion. He calculated the odds in his mind. The risk was high, and the probability of unlocking the genetic potential with it was only 0.1%. However, if he succeeded, he would absorb the power of that beast's original life form, a colossal force that would completely change his destiny. Even with the odds so low, the decision was made. He would risk everything for this unique opportunity. At that moment, there was no more room for doubts or any kind of hesitation. But suddenly, he noticed something. A subtle change, but one that did not go unnoticed. The ingredient in the basket started to react on its own. The energy inside it was manifesting. And then, a system notification confirmed his suspicion. Just by being near him, the item's absorption rate had already risen to 3%. The girl, however, had no idea what was going on. She only felt the sudden change in atmosphere without understanding the reason for his smile. But the tranquility was short-lived. Out of nowhere, Lin Chengen braked the bicycle abruptly, stopping their path. He almost ran over a couple passing by. Distracted by the system, the young man apologized immediately for the slip-up. The scare brought him back to reality. The girl beside him, however, realized that his distraction was more than a simple oversight, and that's when they saw the reason for the commotion. A little further ahead, a man was holding a woman hostage, threatening her with a knife to her neck. The police had already surrounded the area, but the situation was a stalemate. The criminal shouted, warning everyone not to approach. The officers had their weapons drawn, ready to act, but the commander knew that any false move could cost the hostage her life. The pressure was enormous. He needed to find an opening, an opportunity to act without putting the civilian at risk. While everyone watched paralyzed, Lin Chengen saw his own opportunity. Without anyone noticing, he picked up a small stone from the ground, and with a quick and precise movement, he threw it. But the target was not the bandit. The stone hit the police officer's weapon squarely, disarming him. The stone ricocheted and, in a second movement, hit the criminal's hand, forcing him to drop the knife. The hostage was free. The police officers were shocked for a moment, but didn't waste time. With the bandit disarmed, they moved forward to capture him. In a matter of seconds, the situation was resolved. The criminal was immobilized, and the hostage, although shaken, was finally safe. Mission accomplished. Lin Chengen discreetly pulled the girl, saying that it was better for them to leave before anyone saw them. But it was too late. One of the police officers saw them and shouted for them to stop. The attempt at a discreet escape had just failed. Caught red-handed, Lin Chengen turned around with the most awkward smile in the world, trying to pretend that nothing had happened. The police officer stared at the young man who tried to flee. He had just resolved a hostage situation with a simple stone, and now he was acting like it was nothing. It didn't make sense. With the stone in his hand, the officer explained that acts of bravery like that usually came with a reward, whether the hero liked it or not. He was trying to understand the boy's intentions. At that exact moment, a system notification popped up in Lin Chengen's mind, confirming the police officer's words. The word "reward" echoed in his head, leaving him completely panicked. Without thinking twice, Lin Chengen sped off, leaving the police officer behind, totally shocked by the young man's superhuman agility. The last thing he wanted was to get involved with the authorities. Reached again, Lin Chengen tried to explain himself. He said that, although he wanted to remain discreet, he really needed the money. The police officer, in turn, didn't understand why someone would run away from a reward. Meanwhile, the containment team was taking the captured criminal to the patrol car. For them, the job was done and the situation was under control. But suddenly, something started to go very wrong. The thug's body began to contort and black veins appeared on his face. He wasn't an ordinary criminal. In seconds, he transformed into a monstrous creature, breaking the handcuffs and freeing himself from the officers with brutal force. Chaos was about to begin. The creature advanced uncontrollably, throwing the officers away as if they were rag dolls. The street, which was once calm, turned into a battlefield. The commander quickly grabbed his radio to call for reinforcements and evacuate the civilians. Behind him, Lin Chengen and the two girls watched the scene, terrified by the sudden escalation of violence. The police opened fire on the beast, but the bullets didn't seem to have any effect. The creature kept advancing, completely ignoring the shots. Panic took over the people who were still nearby. Fear was visible on everyone's face, who could only watch the horrible scene unfold. Seeing that the situation was critical, Lin Chengen didn't hesitate. He grabbed the two girls and started running, trying to get them out of the line of fire as quickly as possible. With a quick movement, he pushed them to the side, placing himself between them and the imminent danger. Protecting the innocent was the priority now. But out of nowhere, a mysterious figure emerged from the skies, ready to intercept the creature. The help they needed so much had finally arrived. Without wasting a second, the warrior advanced and delivered a powerful blow against the beast, showing a strength that the police didn't have. The creature tried to escape, climbing a building at high speed to flee the combat, but the heroine wasn't going to let it go cheap. She focused her energy, preparing for an attack that would end it once and for all. From above, she released a devastating beam of energy, aiming directly at the fleeing creature. The impact was absolute. The monster didn't stand a chance against the overwhelming power of the attack. In seconds, the creature was completely disintegrated. Absolutely nothing was left. Lin Chengen watched everything, shocked. The level of power he had just witnessed was something completely out of the ordinary. With the danger gone, the group continued on their way. While the two women celebrated being safe, Lin Chengen seemed thoughtful, processing everything that had happened. It was then that he noticed something strange in his bicycle basket. A piece of the monster that had been defeated had fallen right there. Lin Chengen's expression said everything he felt about that. Unexpected gift. Disgusted, he threw the slimy piece on the ground, scaring the two women who didn't understand his reaction. Soon after, they were approached by the police. As witnesses to the incident, they needed to go to the police station to testify. Inside the patrol car, the reality of the situation hit hard. Next to them, the body of one of the monster's victims showed how deadly the attack really was. It finally dawned on Lin Chengen. Seeing the victim up close was a brutal reminder of the danger he and his friends had just escaped. But as shock took over the group, something strange began to happen. A red energy began to emanate from Lin Chenggen's hands without anyone noticing. It was a familiar sensation. That piece of the monster he touched wasn't just a piece of meat. Lin Chenggen focused, trying to understand what was happening inside his body. Suddenly, a system notification appeared in his mind. He had absorbed the vestiges of the creature's life essence, gaining a small percentage of its power. The young man was shocked by the amount of energy flowing into him. It was much more than he expected. And despite the danger and the somber situation, he couldn't contain himself. New power was always something to celebrate. Already at the police station, Lin Chenggen was interrogated by a man who seemed to be in charge of the case. The young man responded with a confidence that left the officer silent, just assessing the boy in front of him. But the conversation was interrupted when he saw a familiar group at the door. He wondered what his mother was doing there. Without warning, his mother ran towards him, desperate. She hugged him tightly, relieved to find him safe and sound after hearing about the incident. With a choked voice, she tried to explain the fear she felt. She said that all she wanted was for her son to grow up safely. Her words touched him deeply. After everything was cleared up, Lin Chenggen and his mother were released, but the officer continued watching, perhaps sensing that there was something more to that young man. Leaving the police station, 2 officers were still talking about the case. The presence of Lin Chenggen and the mysterious girl seemed to bother them, but the young man didn't care about the whispers. After everything he witnessed, he had much more important and darker things to think about. Already in the car, the silence was heavy. While the girl seemed lost in her own thoughts, Lin Chenggen used his cell phone to research the bizarre events that had been happening. Far away, under a blood moon, a sinister cult gathered. Their leaders commented on how activities and the number of followers had grown frighteningly fast that year. And that's exactly what Lin Chenggen was reading about. The news on his cell phone confirmed that the situation in the city was getting out of control, until a specific piece of information, an image or a detail, left him completely paralyzed. A terrible vision arose in his mind, a dark, almost divine entity being worshipped by crowds. The evil he saw on the street was just the tip of the iceberg. It finally clicked. That world was much more dangerous and twisted than he could have ever imagined. Looking out the window, he saw a bizarre scene that summed it all up. A giant rat hunting a cat. The natural order of things was completely reversed. The headache was instantaneous. It was too much information, too much danger. He felt overwhelmed with the reality of that place. It was then that he noticed the state of the girl next to him. She was huddled on the seat, trembling with fear and with her face covered. Her dread was so intense that her body couldn't hide it. A traumatic memory surfaced. The incident made her relive a fear so deep that her body reacted the same way it did in childhood, leaving her paralyzed and humiliated. As the car drove away, the bizarre scene from before came to its tragic end. In that world, even a simple cat didn't stand a chance. And when they finally arrived home, the scene that awaited them was even worse. Lin Chenggen's mother was at the door, paralyzed with an expression of pure horror. Faced with his mother's panic, Lin Chenggen tried to diffuse the situation with an awkward smile, pretending that nothing strange was happening. Still, his mother rushed to check if he was okay, completely relieved to find him safe and sound. Her reaction took the young man by surprise. He reassured her, saying that everything was fine and that there was no reason to worry. For a moment, the tension in the house eased, but the calm didn't last long. His father appeared and, with a simple question, made Lin Chenggen freeze. The boy didn't understand how he could know something. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a man was investigating the recent events. He seemed to be at the center of all the confusion. Suddenly, something caught his attention, a piece of information or a sound that put him on high alert. And there was the cause of the alarm, a monstrous rat of surreal size. The creature that Lin Chengen had seen earlier was not an isolated case. Without warning, the creature advanced with overwhelming force, but the man didn't hesitate. He opened fire immediately, showing that he was not an ordinary civilian and was prepared for combat. The story then returns to a calmer moment, with Lin Chengen at school, dealing with much more common problems, at least on the surface. But in his mind, the reality was different. He weighed his options, the path of a normal life, full of achievements, against the new and dangerous world that had revealed itself. He wondered if he should become an influencer, using his knowledge to gain fame and money safely. He imagined a life of luxury, far from all the danger, just guiding others with the information he possessed. The idea seemed tempting, an easy escape from a reality that was becoming increasingly frightening and violent until a thought hit him. A new possibility that he hadn't considered before, one that could change everything. The other option was to fight, to face head-on the monsters and threats that were emerging, risking everything to protect what mattered. He chose the most difficult path, the path of the warrior. He wouldn't be a guide from a distance, but someone on the front lines fighting to change the destiny of the world with his own hands. With the decision made, life went on. The next day, in physical education class, the school routine seemed almost surreal in the face of the reality he now knew. While the others prepared for class, one of the students took a break to cool off. It was then that Lin Chengen saw an opportunity. He approached one of his classmates, a guy known for his fighting skills, and greeted him. The boy, surprised by the approach, seemed excited. He was one of the best fighters in the class and didn't expect Lin's attention. Lin Chengen then leaned in and whispered his proposal. He wanted to test his new skills, but he needed a training partner who would take it seriously. The classmate's expression changed. He understood right away. A challenge. He accepted without hesitation, confident that it would be an easy fight. The deal was sealed with a handshake, a friendly workout, but with a clear goal for Lin Chengen to measure his current strength. The classmate started, tossing the ball up to mark the beginning of the training. For him, this was just a game. The commotion caught the attention of other students. They gathered to watch, probably expecting to see Lin Chengen get a beating from the class fighter. With his back to the spectators, Lin Chengen formally introduced himself to his opponent, asking him to take it easy. A gesture of humility before the fight began. His opponent, on the other hand, wasted no time. He demonstrated some of his technique, making it clear that he wasn't an amateur and was ready to fight. He seemed completely confident, as if victory was already guaranteed. Little did he know that Lin Chengen, watching in silence, was not the same as before. Then, Lin Chengen took his stance. It wasn't that of an ordinary student, but that of a true martial artist. The game was over, but Lin Chengen wasn't just standing still. In his mind, he was already analyzing every move of his opponent, predicting every kick and punch before they even happened. And then, it all happened in the blink of an eye. A sequence of movements so fast that it was impossible to follow. The result was immediate. The opponent was completely paralyzed, in a state of shock, not understanding what had just hit him. Still in disbelief, he asked how Lin Chengen managed to copy his technique just by seeing it once. The audience of bullies fell silent. The image of that kick was etched in the fighter's mind. The defeat was quick, silent, and absolute. Later that night, Lin Chengen's life returned to normal, away from the school's battlefield. At home, a woman called him, warning that dinner was ready, and the warrior who shocked everyone earlier ran to the table like a hungry child, leaving behind his fighting stance. She had prepared a real feast, a hearty meal to welcome him. For Lin Chengen, that smell was enough to make him forget any fight. That was his true paradise. He started devouring the food immediately. The woman watched him with a loving look. To her, no matter how strong he became, he would always be her boy. She then stroked his head, a simple gesture of care that meant everything to him. Suddenly, the moment was interrupted. A system notification popped up, informing him that he had absorbed a small percentage of a creature's vital essence. Meanwhile, the television showed a news report about the dangers of cyborgs. Lin Chengen was silent, beginning to connect the dots between his new ability and the threats of the world outside. Still at the table, Lin Chengen held his bowl, but his mind was far away. The warmth of dinner contrasted with the coldness of the reality he had just understood. In his head, the images from the television repeated, cyborgs and combat mechs, a constant threat that loomed over everyone's peace. He pondered his new ability. In such a dangerous world, having power wasn't an option, it was a necessity to survive. The news continued, showing the brutal consequences of these attacks. Lives lost, families destroyed. That was the price of weakness. Suddenly, an old memory surfaced. A time when gigantic and bizarre monsters roamed the streets, spreading chaos and terror. The memory hit him hard, bringing back the panic and helplessness he felt that day. He remembered the fear in people's eyes, a feeling he vowed never to feel again or let others feel near him. That memory was the trigger. With a new determination, Lin Chengen decided that he wouldn't wait for danger to knock on his door. He would go after strength. That same night, he began intense training. Jumping across the rooftops of the city, he tested the limits of his newly enhanced body. Under the moonlight, he practiced tirelessly, each movement faster and more precise than the last. He needed to be ready for whatever came. The young man didn't give himself a second of rest, polishing his combat techniques with absolute concentration. The next day, however, the routine seemed to return to normal. The facade of an ordinary student hid the intensity of the previous night. He walked through the school hallways with a classmate, no one suspecting the transformation that was happening to him. That's when another student with pink hair appeared in their path with a friendly smile, interrupting the conversation. She approached and offered Lin Chengen a drink, a simple gesture of kindness, but he was already learning that nothing was as simple as it seemed. The kindness of the pink-haired classmate didn't seem to please everyone. Lin Chengen's tranquility was numbered, as he was already in someone else's sights. One of the students watched him from afar, with an expression of pure anger. He clenched his fists, clearly looking for a fight, and without warning, the bully stood in front of Lin Chengen, blocking his and his friend's path. The intention was obvious. The confrontation was immediate. The challenger started yelling, trying to intimidate him, but Lin Chengen just stared back, completely impassive. The boy then pointed directly at Lin, challenging him to a fight in front of everyone. He wanted to humiliate him publicly. Just as expected, a system window popped up for Lin Chengen. A new combat mission was activated, and a wry smile appeared on his face. It was the perfect opportunity. He accepted the challenge instantly. A faint aura of power began to emanate from his body, a sign that he was no longer the same as before. The confrontation was taken to the school's official fighting arena. The stage was set for the duel. One of the people in charge of the event was analyzing the registration form, completely shocked by what he saw. The bully and his group, who were once so full of themselves, now looked regretful. Their confidence had completely vanished. Amidst the tension, Lin Chengen simply raised his hand, volunteering to be the first to fight. The young man's attitude seemed to irritate the organizer, who yelled at him to get to the arena quickly. The other students didn't understand his audacity. Without being shaken, Lin Chengen stepped into the ring and began to warm up. He was more than ready for combat. With a single step, he stomped so hard that the ground seemed to shake, a small warning of what was to come. And then, his first opponent was revealed, a muscular giant who looked down on him with an intimidating smile. The physical difference between the two was absurd. The giant couldn't hide his contempt. For him, The fight was already won before it even started. That skinny kid wasn't an opponent, he was a joke. He showed off to the crowd, posing like a champion. The humiliation of Lin Chengen would only be part of the spectacle he planned to put on. With the referee's signal, the combat was officially started. There was no turning back. Without wasting a second, the giant advanced with brutal force, ready to crush his target in one fell swoop and end it quickly. Only the attack passed right through empty space. Lin Chengen dodged with an agility that the brute didn't expect, leaving him completely shocked. In the blink of an eye, the young man was already glued to his opponent's chest. It was too late for the giant to even think about reacting. And with a single blow, Lin Chengen sent him flying to the other side of the arena. The force behind that impact was simply unbelievable. The narrator was speechless, as was the entire audience. Lin Chengen, however, simply signaled for them to wait. He wasn't finished yet. In the stands, his classmates celebrated the crushing victory. She seemed to be the only one who already expected that result. His friends also went crazy, celebrating the impressive turnaround. Surprise and joy took over the group. The event organizer, furious, reprimanded the giant fighter. He accused him of underestimating his opponent and being careless. Meanwhile, a system notification appeared for Lin Chengen. The mission was a success and the reward guaranteed. But the competition was far from over. A new student introduced himself to the organizer, informing him that he was ready to be next. He stepped into the ring and took his fighting position. His posture was that of a serious and disciplined fighter, an opponent of a completely different level. The narrator then announced the start of the second round. The real challenge for Lin Chengen was just beginning. The second round had barely started, and the opponent was already coming at Lin Chengen without wasting a second. Only the attack didn't even come close. In a movement too fast to be seen, Lin Chengen intercepted the blow and responded with a brutal kick. The impact was so violent that the opponent was thrown, spinning uncontrollably in the air before he even understood what happened. He collapsed to the ground, completely knocked out. The fight literally lasted one hit. The medical team had to come in to remove the unconscious fighter. No one expected such a quick and humiliating result. The audience was silent, processing what they had just seen. Lin Chengen's demonstration of power was overwhelming. For the defeated boy's coach, it was a devastating blow. All the training and hope were washed away in an instant. But his frustration soon turned into something else, a furious determination that things wouldn't stay that way. And then, a new fighter appeared, walking with the confidence of someone who already considered himself the winner. He warned that the game was over. He stepped into the arena and took his position. His posture and gaze made it clear this was an opponent of a completely different caliber. The public's reaction confirmed this. Amazement turned into excitement as they knew who that guy was and what he represented. Even the narrator got electrified, announcing that now the competition was really going to heat up. A real confrontation was about to begin. The fight had barely started, and the second challenger. For the first time, Lin Chengen was caught on the defensive. He could barely keep up with the rain of punches, being forced to retreat so as not to be overwhelmed. The coach, who was previously desperate, was now shouting indignantly. He couldn't believe that someone was pressuring Lin Chengen like that. The opponent's barrage of blows was simply relentless. Lin Chengen was forced into a desperate defense, barely keeping up with the speed of the attacks. The challenger didn't give him a second to rest, maintaining absurd pressure that pushed Lin Chengen further and further back. The challenger's relentless offensive finally caught up to him. Lin Chengen was caught in a storm of blows, with no room to breathe or even think about a defense. Defeat seemed inevitable. When the dust settled, the result of the massive attack was clear. The challenger had thrown everything he had, but his opponent was still standing, completely unscathed. The difference in power was overwhelming. The opponent's retaliation was immediate and brutal. It was a torrent of blows impossible to dodge or defend, a punishment that swallowed him whole before he could even react. But the aggressor's offensive was broken with a single, devastating counterattack. In an instant, the hunter became the hunted. The entire audience fell into absolute silence, unable to process what had just happened. The turnaround was so quick and brutal that it seemed impossible. But then, the silence was broken. The audience finally processed what they saw and erupted in celebration, celebrating Xiao Chen's incredible victory against 3 opponents at once. But for Zhao, the audience's celebration didn't matter. What mattered was the result there, on the ground. The victory was his and no one else's. That was the moment he had been waiting for. With his opponent on the ground, victory was unquestionable. All the training and all the pain were finally worth it at that moment. Except the celebration was abruptly interrupted. The fight was far from over, and he needed to react on pure instinct, taking down the new wave of opponents with a single, devastating move. Everything seemed perfect. That was the moment they had dreamed of, the pinnacle of their entire journey. Victory was finally theirs, and nothing could ruin it. Or at least, that's what they thought. But reality hit him hard. That great victory was not the end of the journey, but only the beginning. Of 1,000 necessary challenges, he had only completed 16, and the reward for that first step was immediate and very generous. The young man was shocked to see the amount, a prize that made the whole victory and effort much more real. The initial shock quickly gave way to total euphoria. It wasn't just about the money, but about the validation. It was proof that all the effort and every drop of sweat had finally paid off. With the victory money in hand, Xiao Chen went straight to buy the most exotic ingredients he could find, ensuring a banquet to celebrate. The market attendant seemed more than happy to close the sale. The meal was a true luxury, but while he was eating, a knot. With his energies recharged by that day marked the end of school life. School life was over, but the tension remained in the air. Soon, the final exam results would be announced, and that moment would define both of their futures. All the pressure of waiting finally collapsed on her. Seeing the girl's anguish, the young man comforted her, assuring her that, regardless of the outcome, they would get through it together. The words of comfort, however, were the final trigger. All the pressure and fear she had been holding back finally overflowed, and the young woman could no longer hold back her tears. After venting the young woman's sadness, the situation was so delicate that the school principal herself went to their house for a consultation. The meeting lasted for hours as everyone sought a solution to what had happened. At the end of the long conversation, the principal stood up. With an air of superiority, she stated that she already had a complete picture of the situation and that the final decision on the matter had already been made. The image of that strength training was etched in his mind. That was exactly the type of power he was looking for, the level of strength he needed to reach to prove his worth. Suddenly, an imposing figure appeared, interrupting any conversation that was taking place. Her presence was magnetic, and the young man simply couldn't look away. Faced with the new presence, the boy acted quickly, wrapping his arm around the girl. With an air of superiority, he introduced her as if she were a trophy, making it clear that she was with him. The newcomer, however, didn't seem at all impressed with the scene. With an air of superiority, she stared at the girl and questioned the boy's audacity, as if she were amused by the situation. And with that, she simply turned her back, warning them to prepare to leave. For the woman, the conversation was more than over. Despite the tension left by the mysterious woman, Xiao Chen and the girl seemed to have a plan. With a new gleam of determination, they decided that they would face whatever came their way. but in their own way. To do this, the young man knew he needed more power. He remembered his previous battles, where each blow was calculated to ensure victory. Each opponent he knocked down in the past served as a stepping stone for the moment that was to come. Brute force, however, would not be enough this time, so he moved away from the city, seeking an isolated place. In the tranquility of the forest, Xiao Chen prepared the ingredients he had bought. He was about to begin a different kind of training, one that would change everything. Without hesitation, he began to absorb the creature's essence. An unknown and overwhelming energy ran through his body, testing every fiber of his being. Suddenly, the system indicated that the process was complete. But along with the newly acquired power came a shocking revelation that he did not expect. A vision invaded his mind. He saw the creature's original form, a colossal and terrifying monster that dominated the waters, and felt a strange connection to it. Back in reality, the weight of that vision left him stunned. The power he now possessed had a much darker origin than he could have imagined. To understand the extent of his new strength, he plunged into a lake. His body moved with a fluidity and power that he had never felt before. Upon emerging, he was no longer the same. The transformation was visible, and he felt the new energy pulsing within him, ready to be used. The image of monsters destroying the city and devouring people returned to his mind. That was the reason for everything, to get stronger to hunt these creatures. With his body renewed and his mind focused, his determination became unwavering. He would do whatever it took to protect what little peace remained, and the first step in this plan was to ensure her happiness. Setting aside training for a moment, Xiao Chen took her on a trip, a brief escape from the harsh reality. Even in a moment of leisure, the girl seemed a little shy and out of place, as if she wasn't used to such tranquility. To break the ice of her shyness, Xiao Chen dove in headfirst, displaying the superhuman agility he had just acquired. He moved in the water as if he had been born there, but the girl remained hesitant on the edge of the beach, still uncomfortable with that moment of peace so rare and different from everything she had ever experienced. Xiao realized that his display of power wasn't helping. He needed a simpler, more human approach. So he decided to try something different, an innocent provocation, throwing a little water in her direction. Caught completely by surprise, the girl lost her balance from the shock and went underwater. For a brief moment, everything was silent beneath the surface. And there, in the silence of the ocean, she opened her eyes. The shyness began to give way to a new curiosity. The response came in the form of a wave of water right in Xiao Chen's face. To his surprise, she had finally joined in the fun. A genuine and mischievous smile appeared on her face. It was the first time Xiao had seen her so relaxed and happy like that. The young man was completely speechless. He could hardly believe that such a silly gesture had managed to break down the barrier that surrounded her. He remembered all the difficult moments she had been through. Seeing her smile like that made all his effort and sacrifice worthwhile. At that moment, her image became something almost divine in his mind. His determination to protect her became stronger than ever. With the barriers finally broken, the two dove in together. For a moment, they escaped to an underwater world. Far from all worries, free from the weight of the world, she explored the ocean with the curiosity of a child, marveling at the marine life around her. Xiao Chen watched everything closely, satisfied. That small moment of peace and happiness was the real reason for all his fighting. But the peace was suddenly interrupted. In her mind, the girl was dragged into an aquatic abyss, a nightmare that pulled her into the depths without her being able to react. She reached for him, and together they sank. The tranquility of the dive turned into an endless fall, a dark void that consumed them both. The nightmare broke as quickly as it began. The two emerged, gasping for air, back into reality. The girl was trembling, still trapped in the terror she had just experienced. Back on solid ground, The silence was heavy. Xiao Chen watched her, worried, as she tried to recover from the shock of that terrifying vision. She confessed that the sensation was strange and frightening, something that made her completely shudder. The fear was still visible in her eyes. Xiao Chen tried to calm her down, explaining that he also heard a strange voice but couldn't understand the language. He held her, trying to offer some comfort. Later, back in the room, Xiao Chen reflected on what happened. The incident on the beach left him restless and with a new sense of urgency. He knew he needed to get stronger to protect her. Without wasting time, he started a rigorous training, and the system recorded his progress, increasing his attributes with each repetition. Memories of past battles surfaced. He remembered the danger that still existed out there, and that memory only fueled his determination. Driven by this will, he went out to test his limits. His speed was now superhuman, tearing through the night like a projectile. Speed was just the beginning. With a jump, he flew over the trees, defying gravity with the strength he had just acquired. And to test his brute strength, he lifted a vehicle weighing almost a ton with a single hand. The power he now possessed was simply absurd. With his new powers confirmed, a new routine began. The next day, Xiao Chen and the girl went to school, trading the beach for student life. As soon as they arrived, they were greeted by two classmates. They seemed surprised and happy to see them, commenting on how lucky it was that they were all together. However, even in a simple task like helping to clean the room, the system reacted. A new notification appeared, indicating that even the most mundane actions were now part of his journey. The school routine was just one part of the plan. When night fell, Lin Chengen's true mission began. To get stronger and protect those who mattered, he needed special resources. His search led him to a market that sold unusual ingredients. He knew that to evolve his power, he needed a different type of food, something that most people wouldn't even dream of consuming. And it was there, in the midst of so many exotic items, that his eyes fixed on something that could drastically accelerate his progress. It was exactly what he was looking for. It was the paw of a powerful beast, a rare and expensive ingredient, packaged and sold as if it were a simple cut of meat, an item that contained immense power. Without hesitating for a second, he decided he would take it. The price didn't matter, only the potential that item promised for his future. The paw belonged to a frenzied eagle, a high-level spiritual beast known for reigning in the skies with unmatched ferocity. A relentless predator that hunted without mercy, absorbing the energy of its prey to further strengthen itself. Back in his room, Xiao Chen prepared for the riskiest step. Consuming the flesh of a beast of that level was dangerous, but one he was willing to take. The moment he consumed it, an overwhelming energy coursed through his body. The system immediately notified him of the acquisition of a new gene, that of the frenzied eagle. However, the system also informed him that unlocking the full genetic potential would require an absurd amount of evolution points. The path to power would be long and difficult. But power always came with a price. The transformation was painful, forcing his body to adapt to a new and wild nature. He was being rewritten at a cellular level. The next day, he returned to school. On the outside, he was the same as always. Inside, a new force was awakening, and no one there could imagine the change he had undergone. In the classroom, the new teachers introduced themselves. Each was an expert in one area, but all seemed to have an air of authority that was not common for simple educators. One of the students introduced herself in a much more relaxed way, trying to break the ice with the new class. Another classmate also joined in, bringing a lighter mood to the room. But behind the appearances, Xiao Chen felt that this school hid much more than it taught. Suddenly, one of the students stood up and protested, shocked by the situation unfolding in front of everyone. One of the new students, the girl with purple hair, stood in front of the class, visibly nervous about the attention. She tried to introduce herself, but she was so shy that she could barely gesture, sweating profusely in front of her new classmates. Lin Chengen simply watched the scene. The transformation of the previous night had subtly changed his appearance, but his attention was focused on the new student. The girl was even more surprised when someone else interrupted her. Out of nowhere, another new student, with a much more confident air, stood up and went straight to talk to her. The purple-haired girl tried to maintain her composure with a forced smile, but it was obvious that she was extremely uncomfortable. The other classmate, however, was full of energy and seemed excited to put her in the spotlight. She kept talking non-stop, leaving the shy girl without any chance to escape the situation. The pressure was so great that the young purple-haired girl was completely discouraged, feeling humiliated in front of the whole class. But the other girl didn't seem to care at all, continuing her lively speech as if nothing was happening. Completely defeated, the shy student lowered her head, unable to face the others. The talkative classmates seemed to be enjoying the discomfort of others, taking advantage of the moment to show off. It was then that a foot slammed hard on the desk, interrupting the show. The girl was startled, not understanding what had just happened. Lin Chengen leaned over her, showing his cell phone. He said that if she wanted so much attention, he would do her the favor of scanning and exposing her data to everyone. Lin Chengen's threat left the talkative girl speechless. Meanwhile, the shy student could only think about how embarrassing the whole situation was. Suddenly, a short-haired classmate approached and asked to scan Chengen's cell phone, completely breaking the tension of the moment. The boy wasted no time and created a chat group, adding Lin Chengen and the two girls. The First Light team was formed. Immediately, a system notification appeared for Chengen. The creation of the group had been successful, and he earned points for completing part of the mission. The classmate introduced himself as a martial arts practitioner, explaining that he had even won 8th place in a city youth competition. The pigtail girl, ignoring the previous confrontation, also introduced herself to the group with a confident smile. The newly formed group began to interact, with the martial artist leading the conversation in a very lively way. He proclaimed himself the leader of the team, already starting to dictate the rules and next steps for everyone. The blonde girl agreed with his leadership, reaching out to seal the deal and show her support. Only, before he could shake her hand, Lin Chengen interrupted him, holding his wrist firmly. Chengen stared down at him and questioned his authority, making it clear that he would not accept orders from anyone. The pressure made the aspiring leader sweat. The boy remembered that despite his skills, he was never number one. There was always someone faster and stronger in his path. He had seen people with monstrous strength, capable of lifting absurd weights with one hand, and knew he wasn't even close to that level. Lin Chengen's attitude left the two girls in shock, unable to believe his audacity. The protagonist, however, seemed completely indifferent to everyone's reaction. The block was just the beginning. In a quick and brutal move, Lin Chengen used his opponent's own momentum to slam him face first into the ground, ending the fight before it even really started. Suddenly, Lin Chengen's mind was transported to an old and violent memory, a desperate chase through the forest. He remembered the moment a hooded man was captured, an event that ignited a fury he carried to this day. Back in the present, the students were on an outdoor activity. The instructor gathered them and asked if anyone knew how to make a campfire. The question caught everyone by surprise. The answer didn't come with words, but with a display of unbelievable strength. Using only their hands, the youths drove iron stakes into solid wood, to the shock and disbelief of everyone watching. Faced with that scene, the person in charge of the test confirmed that their strength was exactly what he was looking for. In a friendly tone, he welcomed the group, explaining that everyone had passed. No sooner had the greeting ended than one of the boys approached the young blonde to provoke him. He seemed to be testing the limits of the new classmate, who showed no surprise at the attitude. Completely ignoring the provocation, the young man demonstrated a skill that no one expected. Using only a twig, he did the impossible, leaving the other students paralyzed, unable to believe what they were seeing. After what he had just done, he didn't even need to say a word. His simple presence there, standing, was already the definitive answer to any provocation that might follow, and the answer was received. The entire group was in shock, unable to process the demonstration of power they had just witnessed. The young man's silence was more intimidating than any threat. Meanwhile, school life continued as normal, completely oblivious to the chaos. The teacher started the class, calling out the students' names one by one, like any other day. Except, upon reaching a specific name on the roll call, the teacher stopped. He adjusted his glasses as if he couldn't believe what he was reading. The name the teacher read was his. The young man froze in his chair, not understanding why the simple mention of his name caused so much astonishment. It was just roll call after all. A heavy silence filled the room. The whispers of surprise gave way to an almost palpable tension, with all eyes fixed on the teacher, waiting to see what would happen next. After the tests, the exhaustion was visible in the classroom. For most students, the test had been a real massacre, and their energy had gone away along with the answers. The general conversation was one of pure apprehension. The students exchanged theories about the grades, with some already lamenting the difficulty of the test, while others just hoped they hadn't done too badly. However, not everyone shared this concern. At the back of the room, the pair of bullies seemed totally calm, exuding a confidence that bordered on arrogance. One of them, in particular, was determined. He clenched his fist as if that grade was a matter of personal honor, a necessary step to prove his worth to the whole class. He began the announcement by praising the effort of those who dedicated themselves, stating that the heavens always reward the diligent. The comments seemed directed at some specific students. As usual, the names of the best students were called first, receiving congratulations. For them, it was just another proof of their academic superiority. The bully felt his time had come. He straightened up in his chair, imagining the glory of being announced as the best in the class, already feeling like an angel blessed by victory. The teacher then revealed the highest grade on the test, 95 points. He raised a finger, indicating that only one person had reached this impressive mark. The blonde friend smiled, completely sure that the grade belonged to his partner. Their victory was certain, at least in the minds of the two. But the name the teacher spoke was not what he expected. The young man's confident expression dissolved in an instant, giving way to absolute shock. The teacher, in turn, maintained a satisfied smile on his face, seeming to enjoy the unexpected reaction of the class. Reality crashed down on the pair like lightning. Disbelief took over their faces. It was impossible for someone else to have surpassed them. While chaos ensued, with some celebrating and others in despair, a light shone on the desk of the person no one would ever expect. It was Lin Chengen. Without making a fuss, he simply raised his hand, confirming to the whole room that the highest grade in the class belonged to him. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man in a lab coat received a notification on his cell phone. The information he saw seemed important and left him visibly surprised. Back in the classroom, the teacher continued his explanation, seeming to enjoy the climate of shock that had settled in after the revelation of Lin Chengen's grade. The pair of bullies, once so confident, were now completely demoralized. One of them seemed to have given up on everything, while the other just brooded over the defeat in silence. However, for other students, the surprise turned into admiration. The unexpected turnaround sparked a new interest in the quiet classmate. At that moment, Lin Chengen became the center of attention. His calmness contrasted with the despair of those who underestimated him, who now saw him with a mixture of fear and respect. In an act of desperation, the two bullies raised their hands. They seemed to want to say something, perhaps contest the result or simply call attention to themselves. The teacher watched the scene with a calculating look. He already expected this reaction and seemed to have a ready answer for any questioning. With a victorious smile, he confirmed the result, rubbing the defeat in the pair's face. Their humiliation was evident to everyone in the room. The whole class burst out laughing. The fall of the bullies was a spectacle that no one wanted to miss, and the mockery echoed through the room. A short time later, the school routine changed. A new event was about to begin, taking the students out of the academic environment. An instructor gathered the students and explained the rules of a new challenge. He announced that there would be cash rewards for the top performers on the test. The bully duo listened to the explanation with disdain. For them, this was the perfect opportunity to regain their honor and get revenge on Lin Chengen. And it wasn't long before they confronted the protagonist. The threat was clear, but Lin Chengen remained impassive, not letting himself be intimidated. The test began. It was a physical endurance test, a dangerous climb on a cliff. Many were already falling behind, unable to keep up with the pace. Even Lin Chengen felt the difficulty of the test. He realized that the climb required more strength than he imagined, but there was no room to give up now. The difficulty of the test was real. Other students were already at their limit, barely managing to hold on to the steep rock. In the next survival test, Lin Chengen made fire in seconds. Meanwhile, the bullies were sweating, unable to get even a spark, and couldn't believe his speed. Then came the swimming, and once again, the same story. Lin Chengen shot ahead, leaving everyone behind as if they were standing still in the water. At the end of the endurance tests, the bully duo was completely exhausted. The humiliation was visible on their faces, but the day wasn't over yet. The instructor gathered the class and announced that the top 3 overall would receive a reward. The mention of a prize rekindled the bullies' fighting spirit. This was their last chance to surpass Lin Chengen and regain their lost pride. The instructor detailed the final tests, which would measure the students' pure physical ability: running, weightlifting, and high jump. In the race, Lin Chengen exploded at the start, moving at an impressive speed. In weightlifting, he lifted a 330-kilo barbell with one hand, as if it were nothing. And in the jump, the young man reached a height of more than 2 meters. With that, he secured first place in all 3 categories. Lin Chengen's superhuman performance left the bully duo in shock. This wasn't normal. It was simply impossible. But they refused to accept defeat. The blonde bully told his partner that there was still a chance to turn the tables. The final test would be different. 2 rings were set up, indicating that the last challenge would be a direct combat. Lin Chengen stepped into the ring, waiting calmly for his opponent. He was ready for what came next. From afar, the instructor watched with a satisfied smile. He was clearly impressed with the young man's performance. But the real test was about to begin. Lin Chengen's first opponent stepped into the ring. From his posture, he seemed quite confident, completely underestimating the young man who had gotten the highest score on the theory test. But Chen wasn't there to talk. He went on the attack without warning, with a quick and direct assault. The blow was so devastating that the man didn't even have time to react. He was thrown out of the ring with the force of the impact, knocked out with a single punch. The fight was over before it even started. In the audience, the bully duo was in shock. One of them even spat out the water he was drinking, unable to believe the display of power he had just witnessed. Furious to see his friend being humiliated, the bully's bald partner jumped into the ring. He pointed at Lin Chengen, making it clear that he would be next. However, one of the instructors stepped in front. He warned him that if he wanted to fight Chen, he would have to prove his worth against a real opponent first. The young man was not intimidated and, blinded by rage, decided to attack the instructor himself. But the difference in level was simply absurd. The instructor dealt with the student's fury as if it were nothing. Each of the boy's attack attempts was easily blocked and neutralized. With a quick movement, the instructor grabbed him and used him as an example. He threw him violently across the ring, showing everyone the distance between an amateur and a professional. The fall was brutal. The young man was completely dominated and humiliated in front of the whole class. The impact was so strong that he couldn't hold back what was in his stomach. The lesson was learned in the worst and most disgusting way possible. As the instructor finished his lesson, one of the bullies watching from afar didn't seem intimidated at all. On the contrary, he seemed to find the whole situation quite amusing. Without hesitating, he jumped into the ring and advanced towards Lin Chengen, ready to be the next to challenge him. He faced the protagonist with an air of superiority, confident that he would not make the same mistakes as the amateurs who came before him. The boy went on the attack, launching a quick and direct blow. But to Lin Chengen, the movement seemed to be in slow motion. He dodged with impressive ease. Before the opponent could react, Chen had already grabbed him, using the aggressor's own strength against him, and the result was exactly the same. The bully was thrown to the other side of the ring, defeated before he even understood what happened. In the audience, the other students went wild. They couldn't believe the display of power and cheered for Lin Chengen. Only the line of challengers wasn't over yet. As soon as one fell, another was already entering the ring, determined to try his luck. The new opponent positioned himself and warned that no matter what happened, he would be the only one to win that fight. He then advanced with everything, screaming and putting all his energy into the first attack, but his punch was stopped with a single hand. Lin Chengen blocked the blow without even moving, showing the enormous difference in level between the two. With a single counterattack, the protagonist hit the boy head-on, sending him flying. The fight ended in an instant. The challenger fell to the ground, completely knocked out. Lin Chengen then turned to the previous opponent, who had barely recovered. With a simple flick, he sent him to the ground again, a gesture of pure contempt. After the easy victories, Lin Chengen continued the demonstration. With a simple touch, he paralyzed another bully, who didn't even dare to react. A classmate who tried his luck was thrown to the ground with a quick movement. The protagonist didn't even need to try to take him down. With the demonstrations completed, a system window appeared before Lin Chengen, probably registering his achievements. The display of absolute power did not go unnoticed. The girls in the audience were completely impressed with the young man's strength. In the middle of the crowd, a purple-haired student offered herself as the next challenger, full of confidence and enthusiasm. She jumped into the arena with impressive agility, showing that she was not just any opponent. But before she could even prepare, Lin Chengen appeared behind her. With a single touch, he completely unbalanced her. The girl fell to the ground, more surprised than hurt. Lin Chengen's speed and control were on another level. Another student tried to intervene, but suffered exactly the same fate. One touch, and she also lost her balance, and so it was with the next one. Lin Chengen stopped her in the middle of the movement, neutralizing her effortlessly. He was just toying with them. Seeing that no one else was a match for the protagonist, the instructor finally intervened and made an important announcement to the entire class. He warned that in a month, their class would face the strongest class of the second year, and that everyone needed to prepare for the challenge. The mention of a real competition finally piqued Lin Chengen's interest. He seemed ready for a real challenge. At that moment, one of the strongest students approached, saying that he would be Lin Chengen's main opponent during the next few years at school. Meanwhile, the blonde boy who had been humiliated before stared at Lin Chenggen, clearly unconvinced by the enormous difference in power between them. Despite the provocation, the new rival and the blonde boy prepared to attack together. But Lin Chenggen didn't seem at all intimidated by the double threat, maintaining his air of confidence. Later that same night, the city rested. But for some people, the day wasn't over yet. Someone typed frantically on the computer as if time was running out. It was Lin Chenggen. Even after an exhausting day, he remained focused on his computer, completely immersed in another reality. Suddenly, a notification on his cell phone interrupted his concentration. A mysterious message had arrived. What he saw was the recording of a brutal battle. In it, an armored warrior fired at a gigantic creature, trying to survive at all costs, but the monster was relentless. In an instant, he captured the warrior in his mouth, and the situation seemed completely hopeless. Only even on the verge of death, the warrior released a devastating burst of energy in a last, desperate counterattack. The intensity of that fight left Lin Chenggen shocked. That violence was on a completely different level from anything he had ever faced at the academy. The next day, back at the training center, the routine continued. The instructor gathered the class to begin preparations for the competition against the second year. The atmosphere was one of pure expectation, and the training began immediately at full strength. This time, Lin Chenggen's opponent was a blonde-haired girl. She stared at him, saying that if he wanted to win, he would need to be as fast as possible. With a mocking tone, she introduced herself as the weakest in the room and asked how he intended to face her. A clear provocation. The same boy who declared himself Chenggen's rival before commented that it would be wrong for him to fight the weakest. The instructor, however, only watched from afar. The instructor then pointed, making it clear that the next fight would be Lin Chenggen's. The protagonist just watched, understanding that the challenge had been issued. Unfazed, Chen stood up with impressive calm, accepting the master's order. He was ready for what came next. However, one of the students intervened, pointing to a girl and saying that she wasn't at all prepared to fight. It was then that another student with purple hair stepped forward. She seemed to be the substitute, or perhaps next on the challenge list. And so, the fight began. But it wasn't against Chenggen. The new challenger faced the same blonde girl who had provoked the protagonist moments before. The crowd went wild, encouraging the purple-haired girl to do her best and win the fight. The pressure was all on her. Only, beneath the confident appearance, the young woman was terrified. The weight of expectation and fear of her opponent were visible on her face, and the attack came without warning. The blonde fighter advanced with impressive speed and strength, not allowing for any reaction. The purple-haired girl was completely dominated. She tried to defend herself, but it was useless against the barrage of blows that hit her non-stop. Each punch was a punishment. She could barely stand as she took the direct impact of her opponent's fists to her face. The opponent showed no mercy, continuing the brutal attack with the clear goal of ending the fight as quickly as possible. With one last devastating blow, the blonde girl hurled her to the other side of the ring. The fall was ugly. The purple-haired young woman lay on the ground, completely defeated and without the strength to get up. The humiliation was complete. As she got up, it was clear that the impact and fear had made her lose control. The defeat was physical and moral. The instructor approached and with a smile gave a thumbs up. He seemed pleased with the brutal result, as if a lesson had been taught. After the humiliating defeat, Lin Chenggen approached to comfort the purple-haired girl. With a simple gesture, he tried to cheer her up, showing that he was there for her. But the calm didn't last long. On the other side of the ring, another challenger appeared, running at high speed to avenge her newly defeated friend. The attack came with a high and powerful kick, but the blonde girl was prepared. She blocked the blow with impressive calm, neutralizing the threat effortlessly. The defense turned into an attack in the blink of an eye. The blonde gave her opponent no time to retreat, and the counterattack was brutal. A precise kick to the face ended the exchange of blows before it even really began. The fight ended quickly. The challenger was immobilized on the ground and forced to surrender. The blonde girl's superiority was indisputable. Victorious once again, she stood up, seeming not at all impressed with her own performance. For her, it wasn't a challenge. On the ground, the defeated girl felt the weight of humiliation. The pain of defeat was physical and moral. The winner simply turned her back on the fallen opponent, treating the situation with total indifference. She stepped out of the ring, leaving behind another destroyed opponent. Only the line of challengers wasn't over yet. A third girl, furious, demanded her turn, making it clear that she wasn't going to let it go. And she wasted no time, launching a devastating aerial attack, putting all her strength into the first move. The purple-haired girl, already recovered, cheered up right away and began to root for her friend with all her might. Lin Chengen watched the scene beside her, analyzing the new fight that was unfolding while his friend vibrated with excitement. From afar, the instructors watched everything with an air of approval. The level of intensity of the training seemed to please them. One of the students stepped forward with an air of superiority, proclaiming himself as the true strength of that class. He seemed sure that no one there could challenge him. However, a young man with a shaved head didn't seem at all intimidated. On the contrary, he accepted the challenge with a confident smile, ready for what came. The fight had barely started, and the challenger already had to dodge a quick blow, showing that he had good reflexes. He recovered instantly and questioned if that was the best the opponent had to offer. The provocation was clear. The opponent didn't like the tone at all. The shaved-headed young man's confidence was starting to irritate him deeply. But there was no time for a response. The challenger advanced and landed a clean and brutal punch right in the opponent's face, and that was enough. The guy went to the ground, knocked out with a single blow. The fight ended as quickly as it began. With the opponent defeated, the winner stood up triumphant. His superiority in that confrontation was unquestionable. But he wasn't done yet. He planted his foot on the ground, preparing for the next one who dared to challenge him, and soon one appeared. One of the first group's friends, a brute, went after him with a punch loaded with rage, but the young man was quicker than he looked. He dodged under the blow with impressive fluidity, letting the big guy swing right past. Seizing the opening, he spun and landed a powerful kick, using the enemy's own momentum against him. The result was exactly the same as before. The brute collapsed to the ground, completely incapacitated, another one who underestimated the rookie. In the stands, the two girls who were watching earlier cheered at the victory. They seemed to be rooting for the challenger the whole time, and the winning streak continued. Another opponent tried his luck, but ended up meeting the same fate as the others. The next challenger had no better luck. Lin Chengen greeted him with a direct hit that shook the arena, showing he wasn't there to play around. The impact was so strong that the opponent was thrown backward, completely disoriented, and without the slightest chance to retaliate. Chen wasn't even fazed. He stood firm, already waiting for the next one who would dare to step into the ring to challenge him. But the next opponent was on a completely different level. His speed was absurd, moving like a blur that could barely be followed. The fighter unleashed his energy with a shout, preparing for an all-out attack. He leaped into the air, aiming a devastating flying kick directly at the protagonist. The intention was clear: to end the fight in a single blow. The offensive was brutal. A barrage of kicks and punches rained down on Lin Chengen, testing his defense to the absolute limit. But Chen withstood the pressure. At the right moment, he found an opening and blocked the attack, stopping the opponent's momentum once and for all. Taking advantage of the opening he created, he grabbed the opponent and threw him against the ground with devastating force. The tables had turned, and to finish it off, a powerful kick sent the fighter flying away, ending the fight definitively. Another victory for Chen's record. Outside, a man in a white hoodie watched everything with a wry smile. He seemed to be enjoying the spectacle. Next to him, an older man was also smiling, as if he was analyzing the young fighter's potential with great interest. That's when the real challenge appeared. A giant approached, his shadow completely covering Lin Chengen. The size difference was absurd. The big guy seemed to mock him, questioning whether such a small boy really thought he had any chance of winning. But Lin Chengen wasn't intimidated for even a second. He prepared himself, facing the new opponent head-on. The real fight was about to begin. Without hesitation, Lin Chengen went on the offensive. He delivered the first blow with absurd speed, aiming right at the opponent's center, who didn't have time to react. The giant could barely process what was happening. That kid's speed was something he simply didn't expect, and it wasn't just one blow. It was a brutal and relentless sequence of punches that hit the big guy squarely, without giving him the slightest chance of defense. Stunned, the giant backed away to try to catch his breath. He couldn't understand how a kid that size could have so much strength. The fight stopped for a brief moment. But the initial surprise passed. Now, the giant was furious and decided it was time to take the fight seriously. With a quick movement, he managed to grab Lin Chengen's leg in the middle of a kick, using his brute strength to finally immobilize him. And then, with all his power, he spun the young man in the air and threw him violently against the ring floor. The block was just the beginning. In a quick and brutal move, Lin Chengen used the opponent's own momentum to slam him face first into the ground, ending the fight before it even really started. The scene shocked the man in the white hoodie who was watching from afar. He commented to his companion that he never imagined a student could be so skilled. The older man, however, just smiled. He seemed to know exactly what Lin Chengen was capable of. He then explained that even if another strong person were there, it would be impossible to beat that kid. The young man in the hoodie was visibly shaken by the realization. He remembered a time when he tried to advise Lin Chengen, telling him not to worry so much about wins or losses, but the young fighter just gave a slight smile and moved on, seeming not to pay much attention to those words of comfort. Back in the ring, the giant looked at Lin Chengen's fallen body. He thought he had never faced such a young opponent, almost as if he were intimidating a child. In the audience, Lin Chengen's fans were outraged by the giant's attitude. They couldn't believe the brutality of the scene and shouted for him to stop, calling him a coward for attacking such a smaller opponent. But suddenly, something caught the giant by surprise. He felt a blur pass by him at an absurd speed. Still underestimating his opponent, the giant smiled arrogantly. He said that, as a veteran, he would give the rookie the honor of making the first move. He was completely certain that the fight was already won and that this kid posed no threat whatsoever. Lin Chengen, however, accepted the offer with a calm smile. He didn't seem at all intimidated by the size difference or the opponent's taunt. And then, with a speed no one could follow, the young man advanced. He thanked him for his kindness and warned that he would attack with everything he had. With a single punch, Lin Chengen unleashed a tremendous force. The blow was so powerful that the air around him seemed to distort with the impact. The giant, who previously seemed like an impenetrable wall, was thrown high into the air as if he weighed absolutely nothing. The impact with the ground was brutal, raising a cloud of dust and shaking the entire arena. Silence filled the place. Everyone stared at the fallen body, unable to process what had just happened, until the silence was broken by an explosion of shouts and applause. The crowd went wild with Lin Chengen's spectacular and unexpected victory. Stunned, the giant sat up, not understanding how that was possible. To him, it didn't make sense. It was as if the laws of physics had been broken. But he barely knew that the true nature of Lin Chenggen's power was a much greater mystery.